Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Got another Cardfight Vanguard video for you guys today. And today we are talking about the season finale of Cardfight Vanguard Divinez Season 2. And I'll be real with y'all, it was a pretty good finale. I have some thoughts. We'll finish off the card fight from last episode, and we'll talk about the ending and some speculation for next season, if there is a next season. But you'll see why I say that after. But we're gonna jump right into the card fight. If you guys enjoy this type of content, drop a like on the video, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Let's jump in and let's get talking. So we actually don't immediately jump into the fight, which actually kind of surprised me. We actually jump into a flashback, and it's Gabrielius and Akina talking about this whole thing with Sybil. And it's actually Gabrielius apologizing to Akina for Akina having to fight Sybil when he was the one that promised to stop Sybil. Akina, of course, like, don't worry about it. You know, I'm fighting to save now. And then it cuts to the opening / trailers, and then we jump back into the present, and we're going right to back into the fight where it left off. So if you guys remember where the last fight left off, Akina had called out his board. He did a Nobia combo. So he had basically a full board, and he goes right into his battle phase. He starts off by attacking with his first Nobia. Sybil guards it. He then attacks with a second Nobia. Sybil guards that too. And then he attacks with Raziel, and he gets to use Raziel Vita's skill. So if you guys have been paying attention to the leaks, we have all the cards announced because the set dropped yesterday in Japan. And now I can talk about what Raziel Vita actually does. So Raziel Vita's skill, Continuous Vanguard. This unit is also regarded as Fated One of Miracles Raziel during your turn, and this unit gets 5,000 power for each Fated One of Miracles Raziel in your soul, and all of their divine skills. So obviously, since he Persona Road, he has plus 5,000 power as well, and he already used Raziel's divine skill the turn earlier, but if he didn't, he would also be able to use Raziel's divine skill. But his own attack skill is Auto Vanguard. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, Counterblast 1, choose up to 2 cards from your drop with different grades and a total grade less than or equal to the number of cards in your damage zone, and call them to rear guard. Exact same effect as Raziel, but it has an additional part to it. Then put a grade 3 or greater card with Raziel and its card name from your hand into the soul. Choose a grade 3 or less card from your drop, call it to rear guard. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, all of the units called by this effect gain 5,000 power until end of turn. So Akina starts off by calling Gigantic Masher and Knight of Bowstrix Nobilis, since he is already at 5 damage. And then he takes a Raziel from his hand, moves it to the soul, and then he calls Knight of Perspicacity Catellis. So Akina uses Catellis' skill, but they don't announce it. But I did the math on one of his attacks, and that's the only way that it hits the numbers that it hits. Catellis' skill is auto when this unit is placed on rear guard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Raziel on its card name, choose one of your units. It gets 5,000 power until end of that turn. If it was placed by your Vanguard's ability, it gets 10,000 instead of 5,000. I'll explain in a second what happened there. But Sybil guards the Vanguard attack. Akina gets a heal on the Twin Drive. It gives the 10,000 power to Gigantic Masher. Akina then attacks with Gigantic Masher. Sybil doesn't guard, so now Sybil takes 1 damage and goes to 5. Akina then attacks with Nobilis. This one, Sybil perfect guards. So this is the attack I was talking about. This attack ended up totaling at 56. Now the only way it would hit 56 is with a combination of skills. Persona Rod, Nobilis gains 10k when it's called by your Vanguard skill. So, and it's a 10k, so that's already 30k. 5k from Vita's skill because it called out Vita. 5k, you can add 5k to the column because it also called Catellis to the back row. So that's 40k, and then 10k from Catellis. And so it hit 56 with the boost. But yeah, as I said, Akina attacks with Nobilis, Sybil perfect guards, and then Akina uses Nobilis' skill. Auto rear guard at the end of the battle. This unit attacked. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Raziel on its card name, Energy Blast 3, put this unit to the soul, draw a card, and then you get to look at the top card of your deck and put it to the top or bottom of the deck. Akina looks at the top card of the deck and leaves it on top, and then he ends his turn. The damage is now 4 to 5. Akina is in the lead because of the heal trigger. We got some in-between turn talking. Sybil says that Akina is strong and that his strength is definitely worthy of being called king, but he still wasn't enough to reach them. So now Akina's in a desperate situation, and Akina basically says, you know, that's nothing new. Every fight he's ever had, everybody's ever played, has always been stronger than him. And we get a flash, a little montage of all the people he's played against. And he just says that no matter what, the light inside of him never went out, and he knows he can keep fighting. And Sybil's like, all right, then I'm just gonna beat you. I'm just gonna beat you now. At one point, while she's attacking, she says, I'm gonna cut your head off. But Sybil goes into their turn. Sybil calls Boulder Axe Dragon and Obdurasi Glaive Dragon and Battle Monk of Raging Flames Rokusai, the most annoying card in the Varga deck. Sybil activates Rokusai's skill. When this unit is placed on rearguard, if you have a Great Theory Gator Vanguard or Varga in its card name, your opponent cannot intercept until end of turn. This is a big deal because Akina had 2 copies of Catellis in his back row. Catellis' second skill is continuous back row. If you have a Great Theory Gator Vanguard Razor in its card name, this unit gets intercept and can intercept from the back row. He had one behind his Vanguard and one behind the column that Nilberis was in, but now neither one of them can intercept because Sybil played Rokusai. Sybil attacks with Boulder Axe Dragon and activates its skill. Auto rearguard when this unit attacks a Vanguard. If you have a Great Theory Gator Vanguard with Varga in its card name, this unit gets 5,000 power until the end of that battle, and at the end of that battle, retire this unit and draw a card. This was also being boosted by Rokusai because of Rokusai's skill. So this is a 23 credit line. Akina guards it. Sybil retires a Boulder Axe to draw a card and then uses Rokusai's skill. Auto rearguard when any player's unit is retired from a front row rearguard circle in the same column as this unit during your turn. If you have a Great Theory Gator Vanguard Varga in its card name, retire this unit, draw a card. So Sybil retires the column, draws 2 cards. Sybil then attacks with Varga Dragras, Rakshasa, and uses its skill, which is, first off, you have to know what Malworm is, so that way when I talk about it later, you'll understand. If you didn't see last episode or my video covering Varga Dragras Rakshasa, now I'll just fill you in on what it is. Malworm is a state that Varga Dragras Rakshasa can get. Auto when this unit is placed by riding from a unit with Varga in its different card name from this unit, or a unit already in the Malworm state. Until the end of this fight, this unit is in the Malworm state. And if Persona Ride was not activated by this ride, activate Persona Ride. Basically, if you ride over a normal Varga, you get to activate Persona Ride and you're in the Malworm state for the rest of the game. Auto Vanguard once per turn when this unit in the Malworm state attacks a Vanguard, retire all front row rear guards, and this unit gets 10,000 power until end of turn. And then at the end of that battle, you can counterblast 1, retire all back row rear guards, and stand this unit with drive -2. So again, attacks with Varga Dragras Rakshasa, retires the front row, gains 10k. Akina uses the Blitz order, Heavenly Bright. This actually catches Sybil by surprise because obviously, Akina stacked the top card of his deck, so they thought that it must be a trigger. But for anybody that doesn't know what Heavenly Bright does, you play it with an Energy Blast 2, you look at the top card of your deck, you call it to the Guardian Circle or put it on top of your deck. If you call the card you call it gets 10,000 shield until the end of that battle. So the card that Akina calls off the top is actually a PG. So he gets a PG off the top, use it to guard Sybil to attack, discards a card. Sybil gets a heal trigger on their twin drive. Sybil heals 1 damage and gives a 10k to Obdurasi Glaive Dragon. Sybil then uses the second half of Rakshasa's skill. So counterblast 1, retire the back row, restand it. And out of Sybil's back row, Sybil retires Storm Slasher Dragon and activates its skill. Auto when this unit is retired from the rear guard by the ability of your Great Theory Greater Vanguard with Varga in its card name, you may call this card to the back row rear guard at rest. If your Vanguard is in the Malworm state, you can Soul Blast 1 to stand this unit, which Sybil does. It also has continuous rear guard. If your Vanguard is in the Malworm state, this unit gets 5,000 power on both players' turns. So they end up swinging again with 36,000. Akina doesn't guard this one, takes 1 damage, and then Sybil attacks with Obdurasi Glaive Dragon, and Akina guards with the last 2 cards in his hand. So the turn ends and the damage is now 5-5, but Akina has no rear guards and no cards in hand. And off of Sybil's twin drive, they did get a heal trigger, but they also got a perfect guard. And then Akina sees Drag Veda, the Dragon Empire over trigger, and recites its flavor text because it's a quote that Now had taught him. Stand up, never giving up is the way to open the path forward. This is one of my favorite things about Cardfight Vanguard. I love that the cards are 1-to-1 to the actual card game. Their flavor text, their skills, so seeing this, I actually went and double checked the flavor text on the actual card, and when it matched, I was kind of giddy. Akina basically motivates himself because of the fact that, he wants to get Now back. Now's taught him everything. Now's given him the strength to move forward and to fight through all his fights. And as he goes to draw his, with no cards in hand, no board, he goes to draw one card. We see this cool back-to-back of him and Raziel, and he's talking to Raziel, basically saying that ever since he met Raziel, he's felt like he can do anything. And now he's asking for Raziel's to fight alongside of him and to reach out for another miracle. And you actually see them reach together to draw his next card, and Raziel's got his hand on his shoulder as they reach out. It was actually really, really dope. And the top card of his deck is another copy of Raziel. So he starts his turn, draws the Raziel, and immediately goes straight into his battle phase and attacks with Raziel Vita using its skill. With Raziel Vita, he calls Gigantic Masher back, and he calls Catellis again. And then he moves the copy of Raziel from his hand to the soul and calls Bless Dragon Gabuelius. And this causes Sybil to freak out. And fucking Gabuelius floats up next to Akina and says, I will fight alongside you. And this is where we get the rest of the flashback that we saw at the beginning of the episode. And basically, it was Gabuelius giving the card of himself to Akina. It turned out that this card actually belonged to Now. And Now had given it to Gabuelius, basically, you know, laughing about it. Is like, hey, this is you. When Akina sees the card, he reads the flavor text and he's like, I know this flavor text. It turned out this was Now's favorite card. And the flavor text was, you know, the life lesson that she gave to Akina that he follows to this day, you know. They're reaching out for the miracle. And Gabuelius says after everything, he wants to be able to help fight against Sybil. And when that happens in the flashback, the card glows and Akina's like, whoa, there's a new skill on it. But now we jump back to the fight, and Akina uses Gabuelius' first skill. Auto, when this unit is placed on rear guard, Soul Blast 1, look at the top card of your deck, put it to the top of the bottom of your deck. If you put it to the bottom of your deck, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until the end of turn. So he looks at the top card, bottom decks it, now Gabuelius gains 5k, on top of the 5k that it already gets from being called by Vita. Now we go resume the attack. Sybil finally guards Raziel and uses a blitz order called Bond Between Human and Dragon. This one is play this with an Energy Blast 2 if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. Choose one of your Vanguards and it gets 25,000 power until the end of that battle. Akina gets no triggers on his Twin Drive, which sucks. So Akina attacks with Gabuelius, activates Gabuelius' second skill. Auto rearguard, when this unit attacks, if your damage on has 4 or more cards until the end of this battle, this unit gets 5,000 power. If this unit was placed on the rearguard by your Vanguard with Faded One, its card name, yes, it is Liel support, and no drive checks were performed for the value your rearguard attacked this turn, Counterblast 1, this unit gets 10,000 power and drive -1 instead of 5k and performs drive checks. So Sybil says, I'm going to take your challenge, and decides not to guard. So we knew that Sybil had 2 cards in hand and one of them was a perfect guard. I'm assuming the other one didn't have a shield because it basically came down to crit to win. And we get this epic ass scene of Gabuelius and Akina reciting his flavor text. Even though it's just a glimmer of hope, miracle will descend upon those who reach out their hand. The line he's been saying the whole series. We get this crazy cool scene of Gabuelius turning from plushie into his dragon form, and then you get a whole scene of him saying that, you know, this is for all of his friends, his loved ones, his mother, all the people that he lost because of Sybil. And he finally goes to, you see him charging up his attack. Akina does his drive check, of course gets the critical attack. Gabuelius attacks Rakshasa. Sybil takes 2 damage, gets no triggers, and gets wiped out. And the game is over with damage 5-6. I thought this was a fantastic way to end the fight, including the way they animated it. I thought I predicted that he was going to win with Gabuelius, but the way they executed it was fire. But now we go to the post-game stuff. So we see, like what happened when Sybil beat Kuon, we see the Design Force leave Rakshasa and go into Raziel Vita, and the Raziel Vita card floats up. Sybil kind of freaks out, she's like, no, give it back. And Kina's just like, give Now back. And the card glows and basically heals Sybil out of Now. And Now turns back into her original self. And right after that, Gabuelius is like, I'll take it from here. He activates his summoning method, and we get to see real Gabuelius. And Gabuelius basically approaches approaches Sybil in like the middle of space, and we basically find out what happened with Sybil. Sybil is saying, you know, no, I need to create a world where people live by their desires. And Gabrielle is like, that's not all people do. People can genuinely care about people. And it turns out that Sybil is actually a unison dragon. And the reason I say unison dragon is because there's a whole archetype based around that species. It's the Girandra archetype. It's basically about a knight and a dragon who come together and they combine their powers. And we actually see what Sybil looked like before it was this like soul monster. And it was a little dragon with a partner. They carried each other in injury. Eventually their partner was killed. And they turned into this monster. And I will say this looks crazy and I hope we get a card of this. But Sybil accepts that they went too far and Gabrielius basically executes Sybil. And afterwards, the ruins start to collapse. Everybody runs out. Now's unconscious. Akina's carrying Now. And Gabrielius calls Akina over and basically flies them out. And we see Akina holding Now on Gabrielius. And I know for a fact the Now Akina shippers are going crazy, especially with the scene after. Gabrielius ends up leaving. Now wakes up. Akina checks on Now. And Now basically said that she was partially conscious during the whole thing. And that she knows Akina saved her and that he was really cool, and they both start blushing. It was cute. But all their friends start calling for them. So the last thing we see in this scene is Now takes Akina's hand, and I assume they go off and enjoy their friends. And then we move to, you know, the post. So this is well after all the events that happen, and it basically shows what's going on with all the characters. So we see Kuon and Suo playing some Vanguard, and Kuon's just like, you know, this feels like old times, and Suo's like, I don't remember everything yet, but you know, I've got this hot feeling in my chest and it feels nostalgic. And you could see that this resonates with Kuon because he's basically remembering the feeling of how it was when they played together. We go over to Taizo and Kiyoma and, you know, running the business. Taizo's complaining about meetings, and then he asks Kiyoma, you know, can you help me out with this meeting, and can you help me out with the next tournament we're going to? And Kiyoma's just like, you're hopeless. And he's like, fine, just send me the team's info when you get a little later. Then we jump over to the Uniformers headquarters, which, you know, I forgot all about the Uniformers. And we see Jinky talking to Masanori, and he basically is asking Masanori if Masanori was interested in the kind of world Sybil was trying to make, you know, where everybody just follows their desires, because Masanori's all about desires. And he's like, that's just not the kind of world I wanted to make. And Jinky basically says, you know, you want to work with me again? And he's like, what if I start plotting? He's like, aren't you interested in the kind of Vanguard my brother wanted to find? Because remember that Masanori and Jinky's brother were big time rivals. Of course, we see the girls, Hikari, Mikoto, and Yuna. They finally all meet up. They're friends. They're hanging out. Yuna's still fangirling over Mikoto, but Mikoto's like, chill, we're friends. And then we go over to Akina talking to Now on the phone, and Akina basically says that he wants to start trying new things and start trying to find things that he wants to do. And then we see Now on the other side, she's actually prepping for a Vanguard tournament. And then we see Senka show up and basically say, you know, break time's over, let's go. And Now kind of shoos her off, and they start arguing, and she hangs up. And then weirdly, Akina gets a text from his fucking dad, who we haven't seen the whole last 2 seasons. And he basically says he's done with his case early, so he's coming home early. And then we get to see the other side where it's his dad at the police station, and we actually get to see, you know, somebody from Overdress. Tamari is at the police station because remember she works there. And then we actually get to see Akina's dad's face. Now the only plot point that didn't get covered was future Hikari. Akina's at the beach by himself, and he basically says that future Hikari never appeared again after the events with Sybil. So he thinks she must have disappeared all by herself, and he's sad about it because he promised he was going to save her. And of course, in card game anime fashion, she just appears. And she basically explains that after all the events, she basically went somewhere to die by herself. She expected to disappear, and she was okay. She didn't want you know, anybody to be sad about it. And she was disappearing, and then Gabrielius shows up. And Gabrielius is basically like, you know, you only survived this long because you were one with Sybil. And Sybil was a creature that's powers defied logic. So that kept you from being erased by the world. So in order to save you, we basically need to recreate that condition. And Hikari already gets what he's saying, that he's offering himself to fuse with Hikari because his powers also defy logic, and that this will keep Hikari, a future Hikari, alive. she's like, no, don't do it, you'll disappear. And he's like, I know I did all of this to stop Sybil, but I got so many of you involved. I changed your life. In reality, he ruined future Hikari's life, and this is his way of repenting. It's the only thing he can do. And he basically gets her to admit that she doesn't want to die, that she wants to live. And he's like, I want you to live too. And then he fuses into her. So now future Hikari gets to have her own life. And she doesn't have to disappear. She doesn't go back to her timeline. And she even says, I thought I had nowhere else to go to, but I get to live my life here. And we get a tearful, happy ending with Akina and her. And that's the end of the episode. But of course, we got to have, an after credit scene for next season. So we go over to after credits, and it's future Hikari writing something on a note. Taizo shows up like, what are you doing? She's basically coming up with a new name for herself. Since she can't call herself Hikari Miyoto anymore, since, there is a Hikari Miyoto. So we see her playing with the characters of Gabrielius' name and her name, and she comes up with Erika Miyojo, which I actually really like that name. And then she sees Taizo with a suitcase, like, you going somewhere? He's like, yeah, I'm going to visit a friend. And we see that friend, and it is, again, from Will Dress, it's Michiru, the draw jewel player from Will Dress, a lot of people's favorite character. And he basically has a letter for a third deluxe, inviting all the best players from around the world. And between all the characters from Overdress, Will Dress, and now Divinez, because remember, Jinky was involved in all this, I am kind of hyped for next season. We might see some new support for some old decks. We might see some brand new cards. Like, we gotta wait so long now, and I'm just like, I don't know where they're gonna go with it. We might get a whole new named anime, or it might be Divinez Season 3. We don't know. But let me know what you guys want to see. Well, which characters would you guys like to see come back? Because we have characters from Overdress and Will Dress show up in this episode. I don't know. All I know is I would love to see Mirai come back and us get some real Bob Sakura support. You know what I'm saying? But I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for coming and checking out all these videos all season long. I can't wait to find out what the future of Cardfight Vanguard is gonna hold. This game is still at the height of its hype that it's been had in a really long time. I already ordered my case split for set 4 for Levy-Dross, so I will be maining that. If you guys want to see more Vanguard videos, I have so much content and I have more planned for you guys. If you guys want to see me play live, come by Tuesdays. This week will be 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you guys want to get some games in or see me play some games in Theory Craft with me. If you guys want to check me out on social media, those links are down below. That is it for me. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.